Hello, I'm Representative Janine Nodder, and in studio this week on Chatting with Janine, we have our Speaker Pro Tem, Jim Colfault. So welcome. Do I call you Speaker Pro Tem? No, that's a lot of words. Or
You can
can
call
I
me
call you
Jim.
Jim? Okay, that works.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining me. We have 27 minutes to do a legislative update on all the pertinent legislation out there and controversies that surround it and everything that goes with that.
Well, you know, the big topic that's on everybody's mind is taxes.
Oh yeah.
Income taxes in particular, because we have seen a recent tax proposal from Andrew Volinsky, prominent Democrat, former Democratic gubernatorial candidate, calling for a $3 billion tax plan. And he says that that $3 billion tax plan is going to lower people's property taxes.
It won't.
So, you know, interestingly, what House Republicans did was to bring forward a constitutional amendment that would prohibit an income tax in New Hampshire. I think it's a great idea. We both voted for it.
Yeah.
But the Democrats in the House who claimed that they were opposed to an income tax had all kinds of reasons for not voting for that. So, you know, it's something that we hear loud and clear from our constituents. They do not want broad-based taxes. They do want their property taxes to be lower,
Yeah, we all
but
do.
that's a spending problem, and that's something that you know, we are attacking in different ways. But you know, the big lie is if you just give us an income tax or a sales tax, we're going to reduce your property taxes. And even Andrew Volinsky, when he was asked on Close Up, will this guarantee that property taxes are lower? And he really didn't give a clear, unequivocal answer. He kind of waffled on the answer. So look at what happened in Connecticut.
Yep.
Look at what happened in New Jersey. Everywhere that this has been done, the big promise was, we're going to lower your property taxes. And what has happened? They now have income taxes. Those income taxes have gone up, and property taxes have not gone down. What has happened is that there have been massive increases in spending. And I don't believe that that is right for New Hampshire. We're a very frugal state, and we run a lean state government. We need to be running a little bit leaner in some of our school districts where we're very heavy on administration. We have much lower enrollment than a couple of years ago, and there has not been an adjustment to that lower enrollment. And having been on the school board and the school budget committee in my town, I can tell you that when you really dig for where the spending is happening, ask questions about the line item, ask why we need that, suddenly things start to come off of the budget that people told us we needed. So it's not an easy process. It requires work. It requires an investment in time, but it needs to be done. So citizens need to be involved. They need to get to their town meeting, their school district meeting, deliberative sessions, whether you're an SB2 town or a traditional town meeting town. You need to get there and be part of that conversation and vote, because that's where your property taxes are set at the local level.
Yeah, well, I didn't go this year. It didn't work out time-wise. It just couldn't get there. But I went the year before, and anybody who disagreed with the left wing got shouted down.
Yep.
It was a mob. It was a mob, and I'm like, well, you
Yep.
know, it's very hard to get people to go out. It's like, I wish we didn't have spring elections. If voting day was always in November, everyone would have it in their mind, we vote in November for all things.
Yeah.
I think that would get, because now we have these spring elections, who comes out for it? A very, very small percentage of voters, and they're making these decisions like 70%, and that's high. They're making the decisions for all these spending things. That if this was in November and we had 80% of the people come out, who knows?
Right, and I can say I had the same problem you did, which was this year I couldn't get to those meetings. I had conflicts. One of them was a House session.
Yes.
So so I had conflicts, and there is no absentee process. So we're a traditional town meeting town.
We're SB2.
And it's challenging, but one thing that we are doing, as you know, is adding a question to the November ballot when more people do show up. do you want a tax cap at the local level, or tax cap at the local level? And I have a strong feeling that when we get more people involved in making those decisions, we're going to get a lot more people saying, no, I don't want my property taxes to keep going up and up and up. We have to have a tax cap.
Right.
So these are the kinds of things that we're doing. If you want to have local control, you have local control. You have local control to make those decisions. But we would like to see a broader spectrum of people involved with those instead of the 100 or so people who show up to the town meeting every year.
Okay, one thing we absolutely need to talk about is the talking points that are being hammered out there by the Democrats, is that the reason our property taxes are so high is because the state is not giving enough money to the schools. So I wish I had the slide with me that shows that since 2020, we have given more and more money every year, given more money to the schools. But what happens is they spend all of it and ask for more. So they're not, maybe it's a budget issue or what you said, do line by line item and just take the time to go through to see what's being spent. But can you address that? I mean, how the money comes from the state and
Well, it's a very complicated formula. It starts with a base amount per student, but then there's additional funds for special ed. There's additional funds for free and reduced meal students, for English as a second language students. So there's a fairly complex formula, and then there's additional money on top of that that's driven by a formula around property valuation and other factors. So if you look at what the state has been giving school districts, every year it goes up.
with the declining enrollment?
So
Yeah.
fewer students, more and more money. And then there's this additional money that we give. Claremont, which was the namesake of the first lawsuit that kicked all of this off, has sort of become the poster child of bad fiscal management. Now, I think there are some folks there that are getting their act in order now, but they had a business manager who, in effect, did not appear to be recording anything on the books at all. And that led to them being $5 million in the hole. That is a local responsibility. So if you want local control, you also need to exercise local responsibility. And they simply didn't do it. But what's really interesting about Claremont, if you consider the most recent court decision that set a number was $7,356.01 is the cost of an adequate education, according to a judge.
7,000?
$7,356.01.
But we're spending $24,000.
Well, the 7,000, that number is based on a specific list of items. But what I wanted to point out is that where a court said that's the number, the amount that we were giving to Claremont was well over $12,000 per student from the state. So this idea that we're downshifting costs or we're not giving districts enough money is simply not true. If you look at the numbers, we keep increasing the numbers. So
and it's never going to be enough, because
if you ask the question, how much is enough, you will not get an answer.
Yeah, that is a good question to ask. How much is enough?
Right.
You know, what do they want? Bleed everybody dry so we have nothing? Bring everybody down to the lowest common denominator?
Right.
So
we've had proposals from the Democrats for universal free meals, and that sounds like a nice thing, but somebody's got to pay for it. And I know in my school district there were a lot of complaints that the kids don't even eat the food because they don't like it.
Yeah.
So there are.
They used to have a Taco Bell in the high school.
So there's a lot of complaining, but I think people prefer finger pointing rather than real solutions, and those real solutions come with hard decisions about spending and innovation, and that kind of segues into the discussion about open enrollment, because that's a big vote that happened recently on the House floor, and I think surprised a lot of people. So Senate Bill 101 would have expanded New Hampshire's existing open enrollment program to essentially not let school districts wiggle their way out of it with various restrictions at the local level.
Right.
So
I think some people think that if there's open enrollment, then anybody can come and there's no cap. But that's not true. There
no,
was
you
only,
could absolutely
yeah.
you could absolutely
only if there was room.
exactly.
Right.
And there were concerns about special education. Well, special education funding would be, as it is now, the responsibility of the sending district. But here's the kicker. Under the bill that we voted on in the House, the state would have paid $9,300 per student. The sending district would not have paid anything. The state would have spent $9,300 for that student. So where there's been this clamor for give the public schools more money, Senate Bill 101 would have done exactly that. It would have given the public schools $9,300 or plus for additional special education and other factors, $9,300 per student that chooses open enrollment. So in states where this has been done, and now I think something like 40 to 45 states actually have some form of open enrollment.
Right. Well, let me interject here. When we lived in California, I homeschooled my oldest kids because I was afraid to put them in the public school. We didn't live in the best area because we didn't have a lot of money. My sister was a teacher, and I liked where she was teaching at a school that was in an affluent neighborhood. And I found out I could get an interdistrict transfer. So that was the only way I felt safe putting my kids in a public school. And I had to drive them myself. But if they didn't have that, I would have continued to homeschool because the public school is not right for every child. The students should always come first, students over systems. And thank God that I had that option.
And what's interesting, so I think one of the big fears around open enrollment is, well, our school district is going to lose students. Well, your school district could also gain students. In California, there were districts, when open enrollment first started, there were districts that lost a few students. The state of California did a study, and what they found is that those school districts regained students because they were compelled to innovate. Wisconsin, same thing. So it's when you provide that kind of freedom to choose the education that works better for you, you get a more responsive public education system.
So when the customer service goes up when there's competition.
Absolutely. Yep. So I think we have probably not seen the end of the open enrollment debate. I think we're going to probably see some additional activity around that topic over the remainder of this session. But I think it's important that we do what we can to prompt that kind of innovation and cost savings. And if we stick with what we've been doing for years and years and years, without providing more choices for parents and for families, then I think we're doing a disservice to our children.
Another topic that is a hot ticket item is the education freedom accounts. And a lot of people are against these because they think it takes money out, that it's too expensive, which I don't understand. So I don't understand how spending $5,000 per student is too expensive when the alternative is $24,000 per student. So
I fully agree with you. So what's interesting, I actually had a bill still have a bill this session that opts New Hampshire into a federal scholarship tax credit program. Essentially, what it allows for is if you are a New Hampshire resident paying federal income taxes, you can make a donation to a scholarship granting organization, and the state maintains the list of eligible organizations, and you can get a tax credit on your federal income taxes for that. This costs the state nothing. And interestingly, it could even be used by a student to pay for public school services in another district, and still the unions were against it. A lot of the people who keep talking about needing to strengthen our public schools were against it.
And homeschoolers are against it too, but I'm like, well, you don't have to take the money, so it's not going to affect the homeschoolers.
Right. So.
And it doesn't come from the localities, the money.
Right. I have spoken to a lot of parents who have benefited from the EFA program. Their kids are thriving.
Yep.
They are able to pick the best education for themselves. And what I hear from some people who are opposed to this education choice is, well, you know, we don't give state funding to, you know, we shouldn't give state funding to millionaires and billionaires who can send their kids to any private school they want. We don't means test public school. So we're sending those same kids, well, those same kids can go to a public school, no problem, but they're not allowed to have a more effective and less expensive program through EFAs. The logic just doesn't work.
Right, and
So
school choice has always existed for the people who can't afford it.
yes. So as you pointed out in your California example, open enrollment, EFAs, these give families options that might not otherwise be able to afford those options. If a rich person wants to choose the best public school, they just need to shop towns with really good public schools and buy a house there. You know, that's easy enough if you've got a lot of money. If you don't have a lot of money, you really shouldn't be limited by your zip code. So this levels the playing field, it gives people opportunities, and I think expanded education choice is a good thing for everybody.
We have about 11 minutes left. Another topic that has come up recently on social media is the Bitcoin, and I know Keith Ammon is our expert on that subject. He's been on the show before. There's the Bitcoin machines, and there's older people that are getting snookered and
Yes, they're being scammed by.
Scam, that's the word.
And
so our chief of police wants them out of town, and he asked us to vote against this. But you know, being in leadership, I have a conflict because so I ended up, and I don't want to put business people out of business because a certain group is we have to protect them. We're the government. We have to protect you because you're not smart enough. So it just didn't sit right with me.
Well, so there were three options. One is do nothing. One is the bill that the Senate sent us, and the third option was what I thought was a very reasonable House amendment that Keith Ammon crafted. The original bill coming from the Senate had some pretty onerous conditions in it, like there's a 14-day refund period. So if I purchase Bitcoin through one of these kiosks, at some point want to go back and say, I want my money back, that really doesn't work for a volatile asset like Bitcoin. So if I buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin and it goes up to $1,100, I can keep it and cash out and I made a profit. If it goes down, I can come back and say, oh, I want a refund. Give me my $1,000 back.
Exactly.
It really does not. It will have the effect of driving these crypto kiosks out of the state because they will not be able to stay in business that way. The compromise amendment had a lot of very good provisions in it that would protect older people. It would require a waiting period. New customers would be limited as to the amount that they could put in. It would provide this kind of cooling off period. So instead of feeling a sense of urgency because somebody on the phone told me I have to put my life savings into this thing, they would have a period of time to maybe check with someone they know, and there would be I think a much stronger system in place to prevent that scamming. But the other thing I would say is that I know there are a lot of scams that also involve gift cards, and we don't prohibit the sale of gift cards, or we don't control or limit the sale of gift cards. So I think that there are concerns there. I'm a little bit on the fence because I do believe that we should be protecting people from fraud. Law enforcement says this is, there are people who have lost a great deal of money this way, and I do feel like we need to do something. This compromise amendment was a very good answer to that. So I'm disappointed that it did not pass because what we're doing effectively is just banning this altogether from New Hampshire.
So yeah, and it's probably going to be gone now from New Hampshire altogether.
Yep.
So I know you had a list of topics as well. I'm drawing a blank.
Well, I know one of the things that has been a little bit of a hot topic lately is that the state of Colorado, actually, I won't say the state of Colorado, Vail Resorts, which operates several of the ski areas in New Hampshire, is selling passes online that are kind of all access passes to their ski slopes. And they're selling these to New Hampshire residents, among others, and they're charging a 3.2% sales tax. 3.2% is apparently a blended rate that applies to all of the states that they're operating in, but we don't have a sales tax in New Hampshire, and I'm struggling to see how Vail Resorts has any basis whatsoever to charge a sales tax to New Hampshire residents. Yeah. So I am very grateful that our governor has come out strongly against this.
No
and
tax on skiing.
That our Attorney General, John Formella, is on the case, and he is challenging it and looking into it. And I hope and expect that when this is challenged in court, New Hampshire will prevail, and we will not have our residents prevail over Vail. Yes.
With no tax on skiing.
Yep. So, we've talked about income taxes. We've talked about some of the other. Actually, one of the things I wanted to mention about income taxes is that we do have a website that some of our friends have set up, and it is noincometαξnh.com. Noincometαξnh.com. And if you want to know how much the Andrew Volinsky income tax proposal will cost you, you can go on there. You don't have to put in your name or anything like that, but you can go in and kind of fill in information, and it will actually calculate how much it's going to cost you. So you can send your friends and neighbors there, and they can learn how much that Democrat tax proposal will cost them. So I would urge everybody to do that and spread the word on that. Other things, we're gearing up for election season, so we have a filing period coming up at the end of, I think it's actually early June, and there are a lot of districts throughout the state where we need candidates. So if you're interested in running for state rep, you can reach out to the Committee to Elect House Republicans at electhouserepublicans.com. And
yeah, I'm thinking about running. I'll have to contact those guys.
we would love for you to run again, of course. So the the elections this year, I think, are going to largely be a function of voter turnout. So if people show up and vote for candidates that oppose an income tax and that protect their personal rights and that are urging quality education through choice and best fit education for every child, then we can continue to do the work we've been doing here in New Hampshire. If people don't show up, then we could get some of these things that people have said they really don't want in New Hampshire.
Now, I was talking to someone who's new to town. They moved here from another state, and they love that there's no sales tax or income tax, but they hate the current president of the United States. So I said, you know that state government has nothing to do with the federal government. We are completely different. We're not the federal government.
Right.
And we have nothing to do with that. But if you want to continue to have no sales tax, no income tax, you have to vote for us, the Republicans, because if you vote for the Democrats, you're voting for a sales tax, income tax, and everything else that's going to cost you money.
Yeah. So the key really is going to be you got to show up, and if you don't show up and make your voice heard in the elections this fall, and if you don't show up and make your voice heard in the spring elections and the town meetings and the district meetings where your local property taxes are set, then you're not going to like the result. So I just want to urge people to get involved. Try to understand the issues. Call your state rep. One of the great things about New Hampshire is we're very, very close to the people. We have small districts. We represent a small number of people. I know you're very engaged with the community here in Merrimack. And you know, there's a lot of misinformation on social media.
Oh,
so
yeah.
people are putting out, you know, I've actually seen some of the statements that have been made about Republican bills on social media. You've pointed some of those out to me.
Yep, I've
And
got 10 issues
they are-
of Merrimack Republican Review going over a lot of those bills that they're misconstruing.
And the way they have twisted some of these things is pretty remarkable. So you've done a good job of laying out the facts and saying this is what the bill actually does. And so, you know, I think the more we can share that kind of information with friends and neighbors, the better. I would reiterate your point, which is that we are the state government. We are not the federal government. So if you don't like what's going on at the federal level, I understand. But at the state level, we are focusing on common sense policies that make a difference for Granite Staters.
Thank you. And I just want to tell the viewers that if you go to my Facebook page, Representative Janine Nodder, that's a public billboard. You can scroll down and read all 10 issues of Merrimack Republican Review, where I go over a lot of the bills that are being misconstrued and twisted up on social media. No income tax, New Hampshire, noincometaxnh.com. That's the calculator to find out how much an income tax would cost you. And then if you're thinking about running for the State House, Committee to Elect House Republicans.
Or electhouserepublicans.com.
electhouserepublicans.com. So thank you, Jim,
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
and thank you for watching.